Some tracks earn their descriptive nicknames that speak to their history or their distinctive features. The Lady in Black, the Temple of Speed, or the Brickyard. But the Nürburgring is a track so momentous and important in the racing pantheon that its name is a simple description of a racetrack itself, the Ring. And while today's race takes place on the modern, safer Grand Prix course, it still provides a hefty challenge. We'll find out who can take this historical titan on as we get ready to watch round 5 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Sean Ambrose. Behind the scenes, our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Ducky Beard. Sean, while it isn't the Nordschleife, I feel like the history here is still palpable. Tell us about the GP course at the Nürburgring.
Guten Tag, Joe. In the 1980s, the Nordschleife was classified as unsafe for Formula One. So what'd they do? Well, to attract Formula One back to the Eifel, the then 4.5-kilometer Grand Prix circuit was built between 1981 and 1984 and was extended in 2001 by the Mercedes Arena section to its present length of 5.148 kilometers. Now, today, the circuit is between about 10 and 25 meters wide, featuring 7 left and 10 right turns, as well as large runoff zones and gravel beds. Today, we'll do the 16 turns here, 3.2 miles. And now the Nürburgring is essential in the importance for Germany's history of motorsport and also one of the most popular national monuments in the country. Now, while many traditionalists refuse to accept this new track, clinging to the nostalgic past not likely to return, let's let you draw your own conclusions as we take a lap around the modern Nürburgring's Grand Prix circuit.
All right, we've got Kyrodyn Buafia and the GSRC Audi, so let's do a lap around the Nürburgring. Coming down into turn 1, even though the heavy braking makes this a great opportunity for a pass, the corner is so sharp that it's very easy to get tangled up with your opponent when your lines cross over. This takes you right into the newer Mercedes Arena section, which is mostly slower corners. Expect it to be primarily single file through here unless another driver makes a big mistake. This chicane especially requires a lot of patience and a precise line. Get the first part wrong and the second half will be extra awkward. Now we're back on the main course, and as you drift it over to get ready for valvoline, remember that this turn allows you to carry more speed than you'd expect. That makes it a bit difficult to execute passes into. But hold tight to the left on the exit because forward is much more important to your lap. This sharper bend dumps you into a pretty long downhill plunge, and you're on the gas for a decent while. That means the braking into Dunlop could be another overtaking opportunity, hence the need for a good run. There's a lot of banking here, but you can still diamond off the corner and also use up a lot of the AstroTurf to the left. Switch sides quickly because this is a car that definitely can't take the Schumacher S flat out. Get the line right and you can feed back into the throttle without having to lift for the second apex. You only get another short bit of rest out of there before you come up to turn 11. This sometimes offers a chance to pass, but you really gotta surprise your opponent since the run-up is so short. But the far more important aspect of this section is your exit out of Bilstein. This right-hander looks pretty unremarkable, but because it brings you onto the longest acceleration zone on the track and it ends with the heavy braking of a chicane, it's oh so important to your attack or defense. This chicane is one of the most common places where passes are rough, but it's not necessarily going to be easy if you get a tenacious opponent. Trying to navigate this too wide often ends in tears, so try your best to clear the other car by the first apex. Finally, there's the last corner with the hairpin, which again, worry more about the exit than the entry. This brings you onto the pit straight where you can relax for a moment, recollect yourself, and hopefully start another lap around the Nürburgring. And that is a lap around the much shorter little cousin of the Nordschleife. But let's give a quick trip around the points as well as we take a look at the GTP Driver Championship in Anti-Lepisto. Currently up at the top ahead of Keith Ritchie. Not often we see this. Ritchie's been running away with it with the past few seasons, but has not shown up to some of them and as well has had trouble trying to get good finishes in these first 4 races. Jamie Hall is a long step back from those two, and then Robert Olenek has to do some work to try and catch up to the Brit. And then there's Philip Blake, who rounds out our top 5. Looking at the GTO Driver Championship, as Vili Ruola leads the way over there. Ben Laughter not doing a bad job, but he's going to have to start to get some wins if he wants to try and overtake that. And it sounds like Richie has also had some trouble registering for today's races. He's joining us in the YouTube chat, so sad to see that he won't be able to get in for the GTP class. Michael Houghton is a little bit farther back from Laughter, down in 3rd. Then you've got Hohenkamp and Shanahan. Americans really dominating the top of this GTO field. Sean, what's the team's championship in each of the classes looking like?
All right, Joe, the VCR prototype team championship right now shows the All-American racers there at the top. Richie and Olenek, and of course, with Richie not being able to make it in, that's going to be a difference today because right there behind him, Busby, Miller, Highlife, Himaki, Lapisto, very close behind there, 68 points. Hall and Lake, Bayside Motorsports, 181 points back. Still a lot of work to do, but listen, it's still round 5, so we're all right. Hill, Mucanos there, and just racing there, 408 points, 418. And then Nissan Motorsports, McLeod, Pasillas there, 563 points back. Let's go on now to the VCR GT Championship, and there you will find Mind Trick in that Commodore-sponsored machine. Those machines, Laughter, Hohenkamp, up by 151 points over Kaya Ruola and Shanahan there for the Justin Berry Valvoline team. Then down in 3rd, 234 points back, Mind Trick, Windows machine. Now that's Houghton and Quinn. And they're in 4th, 614 points back. Leitzinger Racing, Ove Trendegrade, and Thompson there on that team, rounding out your 4 teams there.
Now we might have viewers as qualifying continues on its way who have not seen this series before, so let's get you up to speed on the Kamel GT Championship Series details. Round 5 out of 12. This is official racing. Wow, Martin Krejcik having quite a slide there in the background. This is 40-minute racing today, unlike the 60 minutes of last week, so a shorter sprint race for this series, which means you cannot expect regular pit stops. If you do take a stop, it's going to set you way back. And the points for their championship is the official iRacing points. Now, one thing that is unique about this series, Sean, is there are no incident points, and I'm sure some drivers are going to be glad for that around what is still a very tricky track, even if it isn't the Nordschleife.
Yeah, you know what? There's a few spots where getting off line and picking up incident points can rack up. You know what? One thing I noticed in practice, the Vidal chicane right there, there at the end of your lap around, basically. Boy, that's a really, really tough one, Joe. It's an easy spot to pick up those incident points. It's also an easy spot to basically lift the car in the air and turn it in the other direction if you're not careful navigating those curves there, especially the ones off to the right. They get pretty high up off the ground. Like I said, I think, incident points might be easy to pick up. Another tricky spot, of course, is out of turn 1 and all the way through 2, 3, and 4 there. That's a very, very tricky sequence of turns and can sometimes lead to cars being off the track.
So we watch Ove Trendegrade put himself on the pole in the GTO class. A nice lap by Ove. And that's going to be it for his qualifying. It looks like Carl Jansen's going to try and do something about that. He's got a whole other lap to come around, though. He circles his way through the Dunlop hairpin and returns his way on the way back up the hill. Now, one thing that I did find interesting, taking a look at how today is laid out in the race, Sean, if we could pull our weather up, there's beautiful conditions out there for these guys.
Boy, it really is a partly cloudy condition here. We're seeing right now, we've got 65 degrees outside. It's 91 degrees on track. Not too bad. A little bit of humidity, just a little bit of wind. I don't think that'll really be a factor today. I'd look to see some the Nissan is wicked fast around here. I got to be honest with you. It clearly outmatches the Audi, but you know what? I still think we're in for a pretty good race, Joe. We have a lot of cars here today, 29 registered and ready to go.
And most of those Nissans, the GTP class, as Jamie Hall drives that in his Havoline Texaco machine, have completed their qualifying. Hall, I believe, is on his 2nd lap now. trying to get his last lap in. Otherwise, he's just warming up. In fact, most of the field appears to be done. Kiradine Boafia, who did our lap guide, is still out there and has not got a lap time in. He might have had a bit of trouble trying to load the track. Kind of a known thing about the Nürburgring. Even on the GP course, it can sometimes take a while to load this circuit in the sim. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, every tree matters, Joe.
Very much so. And he is not going to get a time in, unfortunately, as the checkered flag comes out. That's going to make it tough for him, but let's go through our grid order. Ardo Ihimaki on the pole with Rob Olenek starting on the outside of that front row. Then in third, it's Antti Lepisto, followed by Nicholas Schneider with a great qualifying for him, typically a bit of a mid-packer. Starting fourth, Jamie Hall will be behind him in fifth, with row 3 completed by Philip Lake in sixth. Then Fabian Jungbluth starts in seventh, started by Martin Krejcierik in eighth, and John Keefe in ninth. Rory Collins rounds out your top 10. Then you get to row 6 with John Hill in 11th. Larry Krupp starts next to him in P12. Torsten Kratz is in 13th, and Jerry Forkolb will start in the 14th position. Let's go to the GTOs.
All right, 15 of them today, 14 Nissans Ove Trengrade on the pole, right there alongside Carl Jansen. Joni Hagner in third. We've got John Maya there in fourth, the New Yorker. Ben Lafter qualifies fifth. Michael Houghton sixth. Franco Scurry there in row 4 with Michel de Jong in eighth. Brian Shanahan ninth. Hideki Koivitso 10th. Row 6, Bronislav Romanek and Ralph Cummins. And let's see, row 7, Bruno Viviano and Kiradine Boafia. 29th, going to be Spencer Kimball, 15th in class, last car in the field.
Now, Joni Hagner is typically the class of the field in the GTOs, and he's starting behind 2 other drivers. I find this very interesting, Sean. We've been wanting to see a showdown between Jansen and Hagner, and we're finally getting it.
Indeed we are, Joe. This is going to be fun to watch. And oh, by the way, throw Joni Hagner in the mix there. That should be fun.
Absolutely. As the half a pace lap that they get around this track starts off, the roof pace car going to lead them. A quick question I want to send to the Peanut Gallery, our internet experts. I've seen this chicane labeled the Vidal chicane and the NGK chicane, and I'm curious which one is this that we're on today, this sharper one. So somebody help clarify for us up here in the booth, because we're getting mixed information on maps. In the meantime, around the final hairpin, the roof pace car goes, with Ardo Ihimaki having control of the field, and a very good jump for him up at the front. Lepisto has no answer, although we got a 2 wide between Olenek and Jamie Hall for third place. Down into the sharp first corner we go. This tends to cause quite a bottleneck, despite it being very wide through here, and nobody gets each other. Let's go to the GTOs.
Trengrade gets a nice break, but Anson Hagner come alongside, split the middle. Oh boy, 3 wide through turn 1. Yikes.
3 wide for the lead, and they're not done yet. They clatter together. Ove Trengrade comes out the worst for it, but Carl Jansen to the inside to take over the lead from the Norwegian.
Somebody wants to be a star today. Carl Jansen gets through that. Wow, takes over the lead early.
He saw the name Hagner on that F3 and knew he had to get away, and already Hagner's got a run on him coming down into Valvoline, but no passing opportunity into there this time through. Intense start for the GTOs. In the meantime, up at the front of the GTPs, Ihimaki is stretching away with Olenek threatening Lepisto. They now come down into turn 11. Not just Lepisto in trouble, but Olenek as well has to worry about Jamie Hall behind him. Those two in a tight little fight.
Joe, back in 8th, Martin Krejcierik was struggling there for just a moment. Rory Collins not able to do anything with that. Krejcierik down a spot. Jungbluth was able to get around him.
Ooh, behind them, Rory Collins almost got rear-ended by Larry Krupp. He had to check up to keep out of the rear of that blue Nissan. And that puts Krupp at a disadvantage, because here come Torsten Kratz in his Nissan. almost shoves him out of the way in the hairpin. That's going to take 2 positions away from Krupp as John Hill sneaks by.
Thank you very much.
Elbows out in the Nissans in the first couple minutes of this race. John goes a little defensive down into turn 1.
Big action up front for the Audis. Oh, here comes Trendgrade battling back down the front straight. Battle goes down into turn 1 here.
Side by side into the first corner. That's Jansen around the outside, but it switches back in his favor and through the Mercedes arena. I said in the lap guide it's going to be single file, but they're going to make it too wide. Jansen not giving up, and this is allowing Hagner to get right on top of both of them. Finally, Jansen pries it back away from the Norwegian, but my goodness.
Now, I want you to look at the front end of Joni Hagner's machine. He's picked up damage. He got into the back of Jansen when he was making that run to try and get past Trendgrade. Have to keep an eye on that and how it affects the handling of the car, or if it maybe slows him down. But these 3 are glued together right now.
If they keep fighting this much, 4th place starting to close in. That's Michael Houghton. But tell you what, our podium right now, Sean, is Sweden, Norway, and Finland. How's that for Northern European pride?
Yeah, that's we are definitely in the midst of greatness here.
Oh, a little bit of a look to the inside there from Joni Hagner. Defensive move as well from Carl Jansen. That leaves the car of Trendgrade kind of stuck out between them, and he's losing touch on the leader as now he's got to play defense with Hagner threatening, coming around the outside of the kink in a power move. Great stuff from Joni Hagner. Down to the inside, into the chicane, goes Michael Houghton in the Commodore machine. He takes the podium away, and Trendgrade is now on the back foot with 2 positions lost in 2 corners. Make that 3. Yeah. Here comes Franco Scurry. The Italian wants a piece of it. He demotes him 1 as well.
Wow, and I'll tell you what, Ove really struggling right now after being the lead of this race.
An unreal bit of events for Ove Trendgrade while he was fighting for the lead, which is now under threat as Joni Hagner already pushing to try and get by Carl Jansen, but couldn't do it into the first corner. Through the chicane they come. Wow, big slide there from the Finn. Hagner holds it together, but he is stretching that car to its limits. Meanwhile, in the prototypes, 3rd place looks like it is under threat here, as that is Jamie Hall, who has Rob Olenek closing in, and the Texaco Haviland machine. Oh, and Olenek slowing down. He lets Nicholas Schneider through. That, I'm not sure if that was a slowdown or what happened there. Unusual little turn of events early in the race, so not likely that he's just giving up the ghost on that one. Well, Nicholas Schneider gets himself into 4th after that. But the fight, and I'm afraid to pull us away from the GTPs because we haven't given them love, but fight for the lead between Hagner and Jansen coming through. Bilstein, they bang doors once again. We saw this last time as Jansen is on the inside. Can he carry the speed? A lot of curb. Throws him out of whack. And unfortunately, we've lost picture, but we'll keep you up. Oh, there we go, as we've got it back for a moment here. But it's swinging back and forth. Jansen gets it back into the chicane, down to the inside of the final hairpin. Here comes Joni Hagner. He pulls it away. Almost every corner, it feels like we've got a new leader now, this time across the line. Hagner takes that P1, if momentarily. Here comes Carl Jansen, back at him. Took a look, but backs out of it, down as they come into the sharp hairpin of turn 1. Meanwhile, Michael Houghton has closed in on these 2. I don't think we've ever seen a win from him. Could we see a new winner at this track?
Hey, this is nuts. His pace to start this race is incredible.
These guys are fighting like it's the last lap.
Yeah.
We wanted to see what kind of fireworks we'd get when Jansen and Hagner met, and well, the skies are lit. So, coming down into the forward curve, things have cooled down just slightly because Carl Jansen not making many attacks now. Backs it up, kind of sizes up the Toyota Audi ahead of him.
Maybe someone finally looked at the clock and said, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't have to push right yet.
Yeah, these guys, I think, finally learned that after a few contacts and getting away with it, something needs to step back.
Yeah, that was pretty frantic, Joe.
Okay, let's step away and give some love to the prototypes. Iamaki's still leading. He hasn't given it up, but he's under pressure. Lepisto, his teammate, is holding on, and Jamie Hall making the top 3 with a gap, getting away from Rob Olenek, who's retaken that 4th from Niklas Schneider. It's very much a fight for the lead, just a little bit more calm than what we're seeing in the other class.
Yeah, and Rob Olenek is really falling off now here, Joe, and to the point where right now Niklas Schneider looks to be able to get a run at him here.
And we're as we look through the 007 cam there, back at Nick Schneider, working their way through the Schumacher S. Sean, did you get any time in the Nissan through here? Was the Schumacher S flat out in these prototypes?
No, not quite. No, you got a little bit of lift or maybe trail brake just a little bit, but flat out you just it's too fast to get through flat out.
Most of the Nissans spreading themselves apart right now. Not as many close battles as we're seeing in the other class. Although Lepisto's got it down to within half a second now of Ihamaki. Could be threatening his teammate in the next few moments. We've still got 31 minutes left to go in this 40-minute race. We're not even a quarter of the way through this thing.
And we've seen just absolute craziness to start the race. Back with the Audis, Hagner still in the lead, and that damage I talked about on the front end seems to be absolutely no issue at this point for Yoni.
Charging on through whatever may come. Jansen's keeping him honest, even if he's backed off just a little bit. That gap less than a second between them.
Great battle between Shanahan and Caroline Boafia. Boafia getting to the inside of him here.
Remember, Boafia did not get a qualifying lap in. He's going to be around the outside of Bilstein, but can he carry the momentum? Yes, he can. Sneaks on by. Now he's fully ahead of Shanahan, but is Brian going to have a go into the chicane? As they come up through the kink, down into the braking, and he has no answer for him. So, Kiradine may have not gotten his qualifying in, but he has gone from 28th overall to 22nd. Number 17 doing very well.
Yeah, 7th in class. It's not a bad effort so far. Got a little ways to go to catch John Malia, though. Malia just over 3 seconds.
And for a second, I thought we had a change for the lead in the prototypes. Still Iamaki up at the top. Antti Lepisto is not giving up, but he has dropped off just a little bit now. Behind them, Rob Olenek has regathered his senses, and now he's challenging Jamie Hall. Hall running the Texaco Haviland machine you see in front. Olenek behind in the black Toyota. No chance of challenging into the first corner. Now they hit the slower Mercedes arena, and it looks like they're starting to get traffic in the form of the Audis. It's Bronislav Robanek that our leaders working their way around. How did traffic seem in the practice, Sean? Is it difficult to get around the slower class here?
You know what, Joe? Like most tracks with a lot of turns on them, it's really where you choose to pass, but just don't get side by side and or too close. But not so bad. Not so bad.
Whoa! And our leader is off.
Yep.
Antti Lepisto overshoots the Dunlop hairpin and is all the way into the grass. He keeps it out of the barriers. Multiple corners.
That was Iamaki, buddy. Oh,
excuse me.
And he toes out.
wonder if that's a hardware failure.
Something going on there. That didn't look right. We're going to go on board and take a look.
Apologies, Ihimaki, the one who blew his engine.
Yeah, and you know what? We've seen that happen before. These Nissans, you get down through that gearbox a little bit too quick, and boy, it's easy to actually click all the way down into first. Sometimes you lose track.
Meanwhile, looks like John Keefe had a bit of a problem coming out of turn 11. Looped around, was able to keep going, but not before losing 2 positions in the process. In fact, he's just finishing up a battle with Rory Collins right now, as Collins the second car to demote John Keefe down to 9th in class.
Joe, I think, just memory, this season alone, I think that's 3 motors I think we've seen. I'm remembering 2 other instances, not the drivers necessarily, but I know we've seen it.
That's out of 5 races, this being the 5th one. Torsten Katz must have had a problem because he's now coming into the pits.
Ooh, we missed John Maya getting a little help from Franco Scurry off track.
Ooh, not a good day for John.
No.
That's going to send him backwards down into what looks like 7th position. 8th, excuse me. Right now, GTO's getting hot once again. Hagner's found himself some pace, but not enough to run away. And the same thing with Michael Houghton, as Ove Trangerade is on the back of him. Remember, Trangerade started this race on the pole. He's going to want to get back up there. He's trying to get past Houghton. He looks to the inside, down into turn 1. Wow, he was given a lot of room. Very polite from Michael Houghton. The Commodore is going to have the inside down in the Mercedes arena. And still they're side by side. Defensive for Houghton into the chicane now. Finally, he slips ahead, as Ove Trangrade's going to have to regroup and give it another go later. Thinks about it into the Valvoline left-hander, but just nothing doing into that downhill plunge.
Boafia just takes over another spot, Joe. Gets by Franco Scurry. Has him up to 5th in class. That's 9. That's 9 spots, man.
He's not too far behind our leaders. This has been just an astonishing drive from Boafia. Coming back after he must have had a mistake in that qualifying to put him back there. Up in 2nd place, Jamie Hall has to worry about what's behind, not so much about what's ahead, even though Lepisto is well within his windscreen. It's Rob Olenek trying to run him down. They're going to get some traffic that could potentially get in the way. That's Franco Scurry. They're now approaching the leaders in the GTOs. And on board with Olenek. Oh, squeezing through at the apex of the kink, and he manages to do so safely, with Scurry being aware of the situation. Now as they hit the chicane, they accordion together. Bad second apex for Rob Olenek. Here comes the car of... Excuse me, that was a bad second apex for Jamie Hall. That's Olenek, who gets by in an opportunistic move just before the final hairpin. Not easy to do that, Sean.
No, not at all. I'm scanning the field right now. Lots of traffic coming through with Boafia. It's down to turn 1. Lepisto gets through. Olenek gets through, and now Jamie Hall finally gets around, but that was pretty scary going into 1 there for Garrettine.
I think it might be scarier for Joni Hagner right now, because he's got Carl Jansen all over his rear spoiler. It's been down to 2/10 at some moments, but a good run through forward keeps him safe from the Swede.
Yeah.
The driver is very clearly pushing. Go ahead, Sean.
I was just going to say it's not going to be long before the Nissans catch these guys. And they are so close right now that, boy, this could be a problem. Depending on where they get caught, of course. But, boy, good battle. You hate to see interrupted by traffic coming through, but it is going to happen. And the battle behind him is still good, too. Houghton and Trengrade. Here we go. Lepisto right behind Trengrade.
GTP leader has to take a wide line through Bilstein to try and get around the first of the Audis, but he's unfazed by the cars behind. Other prototypes not able to do anything with it. Sneaks to the inside of Houghton through the kink. Now Houghton has to deal with Olenek coming through, outbraking him into the chicane. Olenek going to be split by those two GTOs between himself and Jamie Hall just momentarily. Corner fight for the lead has switched hands, and the GTOs, because Janssen got ahead of Hagner, and it's going to switch hands once again. Here comes Hagner to the inside, down into turn one, locks him up, trying to get the car to turn, somehow does it, and retakes P1, but here comes our leader in the GTP, Antti Lepisto. Could he break up this fight? Could this cause a fight in the GTPs as well? Janssen took a little bit of a look into the chicane. Now they return to the main course. Lepisto having to go the long way around. Has to weave through, ducks to the inside, down into turn 6.
Wow, Lepisto made that happen.
And Olenek, trying to read the traffic as well as he can, is unfortunately going to split up that fight for the lead, and the GTOs not without being caught by Jamie Hall.
Yeah, and Hall gets a big advantage there. He's caught them at a better time. Picks up a lot of ground on Rob. Lepisto gets away.
And somehow they stay in the order they were before. They all streaked through one another. Hagner now has his gap up to 0.8 over Janssen. As that continues, Hall still very close to Olenek for second place in the prototypes. Through the chicane and out up to the final corner. We are now down to 20 minutes left to go on the clock. Riding on board with Hall now, the Texaco Haviland machine. Up the pit straight. You get a good sense on just how tight this first corner is.
Well, you know, it's like I said in the opening of the race, Joe. This track can be very, very narrow as 10 meters at times, and things do get pretty tight.
Oh, and meanwhile, Michael Houghton now in a battle for third with Ove Trangerade coming around the first corner. And the GTOs, Trangerade tries to come back at him, but can't do anything into the Mercedes arena. Now back out of there. Houghton with a robust race today.
Yeah.
Still has half of it yet to go, though. Heard a little bit of a misshift on Ove Trangerade, sadly, and that's going to deny him an opportunity.
It's gonna stall out his run there. But you mentioned Houghton, a really, really good job by the Texans showing up today, ready to go. Clinging on to a podium spot right now. Ove Trangerade, though, going to be a tough customer.
Not missing anything up at the top of the prototypes right now. The battle is staying as is. We'll go to it if it gets any closer. Really, the bulk of the fighting, the most intense fighting, has been in the Audis class. So as we give a glance at Lepisto, he's been able to stay ahead of Olenek by about 0.8. Safe, but not safe enough to stop being nervous.
Yeah, honestly, with the way this race opened, Joe, I really thought we were going to see a lot of cars in the pit. You know what? We've done a pretty good job. We've got 26 tracking around right now, and we started 29. I'd say that's pretty good.
Not a bad rate considering there's no spare cars in this series, with it being a C-class level iRacing official. Drivers, of course, able to take a tow and get a completely new car if they get too much damage. Although that will set you back, having to get down the pits. Meanwhile, the lead in the GTO is back hot once again. Jansen's got it down to 2/10.
It's time for another battle. They take a lap off, maybe take 2 laps off, and then they're back at it.
Looks to the inside. Unfortunately, can't do anything with it. But now we're starting to see little pokes and prods from Jansen. He's won multiple races this season. Joni Hagner's been away for a bit, finally able to return.
Well, Joni certainly is capable of picking up a win here. Can he keep the focus over these last 17 minutes?
It's the old master versus the new blood. Here in the Kamel GT series on iRacing, you're watching round 5 of this season of 12. Look at him close in, down into the braking, another slide under acceleration from Hagner. Does he need to worry about that, Sean? Can he wear out those tires doing that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, and then once they start to fall off, if you keep beating them up, they will go downhill quick, Joe, and you find yourself having to maybe take a lap or 2 of recovery. Really, really easy to smoke them here.
Much tighter the apex for Joni Hagner this time, but it doesn't do much to try and shake the car of Carl Jansen. They've got traffic within class in the form of Spencer Kimball. He's going to pull out of the way, and oh, great move, great job by that back marker to let this battle through.
Bear Claw ready for him and waiting at the next Back Markers United meeting.
Ooh, he has a little bit of a bobble coming into the Valvoline corner there, but keeps it together. That name just seems like an unholy love child of Spencer Piggott and Charlie Kimball.
All right.
We'll have to get an interview and try and confirm that later.
Confirm or apologize.
One or the other. Meanwhile, the battle has not abated for that lead in the GTOs. Apologies to fans of the drivers in the prototype class. Just not a lot going on up there, although it's staying close. If it gets closer and the lead there will jump over. But right now, the fight is absolutely at the top of the Audis. Oh, and speaking of which, prototypes did get close, yeah. But then Olenek, unfortunately, could not keep it together. It was down to 2/10, and it stretched back away to 7/10 of a second. They're going to get some traffic. Oh, this is definitely going to bring it together. Look at this. Great opportunity for Olenek. Can't find any space on the track, though, as poor Kiradine Boafia finds himself, or excuse me, Bronislav Robanek finds himself a moving chicane. And this has brought our top 3 incredibly close together now. Lepisto, Olenek, Hall is your podium order in the prototypes. Bad exit of the Schumacher S from Rob Olenek. He's under attack as Jamie Hall looks around the outside of turn 11. Can't do anything with it.
Denied.
He's still right on top of him, and this battling is exactly what Lepisto wants. That Finn is now gapping them out. Here we go again for second place. And again, it's to the outside. Jamie Hall being forced to do it the hard way.
Okay, now back to the Audis real quick. Bruno Viviano just spun, and back in Dunlop, he's got the leaders coming up on him here real quick. Not to mention that Nissan right there.
Yeah,
that's,
I was just
Rory
gonna say.
Collins coming through.
Rory Collins looks like John Keefe diving it
boy.
in late. Oh, in a 3-wide situation. That's Krejcik, who somehow got through that. Both a lapped Audi and Carl Jansen.
I told you that was going to get tricky.
That was not an exaggeration. Oh, another slide from our leader, Joni Hagner. He does not seem to like the exit of the last chicane.
Joe, we got a little feedback, but man, on my map for this track, for this circuit, I've got Vidal.
Yeah, and I saw that. And then I saw other maps that said NGK, and so I'm still a little confused. So what's the main feedback then from the Peanut Gallery?
Vidal.
Aha. All right, well, we'll go with Vidal then. Meanwhile, Jamie Hall still trying to threaten Rob Olenek for that second spot. What we thought would be a battle for the lead has unfortunately petered out up at the very front, but hotted up for second place. The number 5 versus the number 7. Only 12 minutes to go. We'd like to do a rundown of the orders, but boy, it's hard to pry ourselves away from these fights.
Well, and that's led to positions changing quite a bit, hadn't it, Joe? So, been tough to get these rundowns in.
All right, I see that Jansen has backed off of Hagner a little bit, either through traffic or just Hagner finding some space. I'm going to wait for Hall and Olenek to try and get through this traffic of Koivisto and Lepisto. Excuse me, Lepisto's our leader. Just want to make sure that this doesn't interrupt and cause some action that we don't want to miss. And all right, let's try and peel ourselves away then, because I don't think anything's going to happen there. The leader in our prototypes and overall, Antti Lepisto, inherits the lead off of his teammate after he blew an engine. Disappointment there for Iamaki. Rob Olenek is in second. In fact, good thing we left when we did. He's started to stretch it away to about over a second over third place, which is Jamie Hall right now. Then we've only talked to him about him a little bit because he's dropped away, but he's been running a nice smooth race himself. Nicholas Schneider is in our top 4 here. And then how about Philip Blake? A little love for him. He's rounding out our top 5 in the GTPs. Let's go to the GTOs.
All right. Well, Joni Hagner has that top spot right now. Carl Jansen just under a second behind him. That's coming down to the last lap. I can already tell you that. Now, Michael Houghton finds himself a little bit further back, almost 10 seconds on the chart here in third, but is having a good drive, and right now is able to keep Ove Trengrade way, way back in the mirror there in fourth. Karadan Bawafia, drive of the race in the Audis right now, up 9 spots in class, finds himself rounding out this top 5 with a chance to catch Ove. Just under 3 seconds separates those two. So I don't know. We'll see if Karadan has a little bit left in him there to go get Ove.
I was just thinking that he's been running the race of his life, really, to come through for a top 5, potentially more, if he can get up on top of Ove in these final minutes, and I would not put it past him. And just as we went to our rundown, pretty much everybody started to separate apart. The only drivers I'm seeing that actually got closer together was our GTO leaders, Hagner and Jansen.
And now they've got John Hill right in the middle of them. Hill actually caught Hagner in a bad spot, had to back off quite a bit.
Ooh. Is that difficult to try and get through the kink? And whoa! And a dip into the wheels in the grass. And it's going to be an opportunity there for Carl Jansen. Slips by with ease through the chicane as a big mistake from Hagner. Let's look at the replay. And that was kicked off when Hagner tried to come back to the racing line a little bit too far over. I think he got a slowdown even as he tried to collect it through there.
Yeah, you are right about that. And boy, who knew that John Hill coming through there was going to wreak as much havoc as it did, and I really think that's what led to that. I really think Joni had a little bit of trouble managing the braking zone there when Hill was just right outside his door.
Oh, and Wafia is now overtaken Ove Trangerade already. I thought it would be a couple laps before we saw that.
And I said he might have a chance to catch him.
Oh, and it's another problem with the chicane. Ove missed it. So once again, a slowdown. Meanwhile, our overall leader, we just missed it, I think. Or excuse me, our GTO leader, I should say, had a very close moment with Larry Krupp coming through Ford. He might have actually banged doors with him, but they get away with it. I tell you what, though, this battle between Janssen and Hagner, I'm not too shocked, Sean, that it all comes down to who makes that one little mistake.
Yeah, and Hagner has been so good there over a period of, I don't know, maybe about 4 or 5 laps. Was really beginning to wonder what it was going to take for Janssen to get around him. And, of course, he took advantage of a mistake there. No problem. Watch for Hagner to fight back here, though, Joe. With just about 7 minutes to go.
I don't see this Finn giving up lightly at all. He's taken a lot of curb through the kink. What I wanted to ask, is he asked to work his way around Ralph Cummins, who comes to a complete halt on the track to let the leaders through. That kink on the backstretch, Sean, is it marginal? It looks like it's flat out, but can you just barely get through in these Audis?
It's marginal. I'm gonna go with what you said, marginal.
Hagner. Yep, Hagner looking to the inside. I wonder if there was a slowdown or something for Janssen, because he just caught him incredibly quickly, goes through the inside of turn 1, and just like that, we've swapped the lead yet again. Here comes Janssen coming back at him into the Mercedes arena, takes a look, defensive move, early turn in there from Joni Hagner, almost gets touched by the Swede, almost gets touched again by the Swede as he's parking it at the apexes.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. Hagner just got a better run, period, out of Coca-Cola, and able to pick up that spot.
Just phenomenal stuff from the Finn. Meanwhile, let's pry ourselves away just momentarily, because Jamie Hall has been working on Rob Olenek what feels like this entire race, putting the pressure on yet again in these final 5 minutes. Interesting difference in lines between the turns of Valvoline and Ford on those 2 Nissan prototypes, but they hold station. Out of Dunlop hairpin. Looks like Hall starting to gain a little ground, though. Then the Schumacher S has to withstand the buffeting that might send him backwards, but no, he holds up well. Hall is clawing and fighting for whatever he can to give himself a chance to attack here. A little bit of a quick mention. We do have a sort of a fight going on between Rory Collins and John Keefe. This is for 7th in the prototypes.
Yeah, those two have been at it for a little bit, Joe, and a couple of Indiana drivers racing for bragging rights back there.
Oh, and Hoosiers love their bragging rights. I know, I was raised by 2 of them. As Carl Janssen taking a look to the inside for the lead for the GTOs once again. He looks so much stronger in these slow corners.
You know, I almost think this was planned by design. I think Carl wanted to be in the attacking position here as we get into the final minutes of this race, Joe. About, I'm going to say, a little less than 3 laps to go.
This has got to be frustrating for Janssen. It's like on a busy street full of apartments, there is a car parked exactly where he wants to be at every apex. Always easier to pass on the straights than in the corners, but he's got to do something here if he wants to get P1 away from him. And meanwhile, second into the Nissans, now up for grabs. Here comes Jamie Hall around the outside, looking for the over-under maybe in the Dunlop hairpin. Can he get the run and get by his side? No, he gets chopped off at the nose before the Schumacher S. Brave stuff from Rob Olenek to get the clear at the last moment. Let's watch the onboard of Olenek on that one. Oh, and actually, it looks like we're going to stay live because Hall gets another run. He's going to be right within the slipstream as they come through the kink. A bad moment for Rob Olenek means he has to go defensive, but here comes Jamie Hall. Timid on the brakes down to the chicane, and he gives up the ghost there. He's going to wait behind. And all this fighting is allowing Lepisto to once again secure his lead, which is about 2 seconds up, and the overall P1 position.
All right, Joe, back up front for the Audis. Hagner, Jansen still going at it. No big surprise there. Back for 6th place, though. John Maya trying to make it close with Franco Scurry. Got him in his sights.
It was within a second, but I'm thinking with this being the last 2 minutes, we need to keep our eyes on 1st and 2nd in the GTOs here. This is exactly the fight we wanted. Oh, and here goes a great exit out of Ford from Carl Jansen. He is right on the rear spoiler. A little bit of a defensive move down into Dunlop from Joni Hagner. Was expecting it, but there was no dive from the Swede. He waits for it, looks for the exit out of the hairpin. He gets it, but once again, there's nowhere to go. Into the Schumacher S, way off the apex for Joni Hagner. Still doesn't give an opportunity for the Swedish driver behind him. Where can he get it done? He's trying his hardest to find a way. Behind them, they've got the overall leader, Antti Lepisto, having to work the long way around through Bilstein, and that's going to separate them.
Oh, man. And I think Lepisto is going to take the white flag when he comes across the start-finish line this time.
Lepisto making like offspring, and he's got to keep them separated.
Oh,
one more lap to go here for our prototype leader.
I'll have that riff in my head the rest of the day. Thanks,
You're welcome. As more prototypes come through, what was looking like it was going to be an incredible fight on the final lap, unless something happens here with Jamie Hall and he dives it in deep. Oh, and here comes 4th place. That is Nicholas Schneider trying to get into the mix, separating them, just squeezing between them but not making contact. Oh, this is the last place that the Audis wants that prototype. Oh, a dive to the inside. He gets his nose in, but Carl Jansen can't quite get the car through.
Man, Schneider was almost kind of rude getting through there, man. But look at this battle.
Schneider was thinking podium there. Well, this has certainly hotted it back up. I thought that we were done with this battle for the lead in the GTOs. And we'll have to make sure and jump to Lepisto when we get close to the end of the lap. He is not too far ahead of these two. Into Dunlop. Oh, remember we talked about those tires on Hagner.
Oh, Romanek. Not Romanek. Oh, we had
Schneider.
Schneider.
We'll come back to that later. In the meantime, not seeing any opportunities in the near future for Jansen unless we get another mistake from Hagner. That could be because his tires don't seem to be behaving as well as he wants in some of these corners. In the meantime, we've got to go to Lepisto. 2 turns to go. Through the chicane. Now just the hairpin. He's successfully through there. It's been very tight. He hasn't been able to relax this whole race. But as he comes around the final hairpin...
Oh! Sorry, go, Joe.
Our leader crosses the line. The win goes to Lepisto. Go ahead, Sean.
Jansen's got him. Jansen is right there on the inside fender. Coming through the last turn.
Shoves him out of the way, but could there be an over-under as Jansen gets ahead in the final turn and takes the win in the GTOs?
Wow.
Let's look at this replay. Once we talked about this chicane being the Achilles heel of Hagner. Jansen was on the attack into it. He knew if he could get the run off, that could be the opportunity. And there he went to the inside.
Wow, side by side through there. Man. Final turn, side by side going through here. A little bit of contact. And Jansen's got it in a way, man. Wow, what a finish.
I don't think either driver can be mad about that. That was, I hope that's the most fun they've ever had in this Audi, as they afterwards did a little bit of a dual sliding. But let's go to break and catch our breath. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. And on screen, you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to the Nürburgring. We just watched round 5 of the iRacing Kamel GT series. Boy, if you're a GTO fan, I hope you're satisfied with that one, because that was a stunner. Exactly what we've been asking for between two titans who we were waiting anxiously to see race. But before we get to that, let's talk about the GTPs first. That was a good race as well. We can't play this down because Antti Lepisto inherited it away from his teammate Arto Yamaki. And in the end, he held off 2 hard chargers to take another win. And the GTPs, Rob Olenek finished in second behind him with a great fight with Jamie Hall throughout the race, and Hall rounds out our podium. Nicholas Schneider, he had his problem on that last lap we saw, but we couldn't really cover it. Even still, he came home in 4th and stayed ahead of Philip Blake, who was right behind him at the line after that spin. He gets a top 5. Fabian Jungbluth was in 6th, so let's not downplay his race either. A good run from him, going from 7th to 1 position up. And then John Keefe finishing behind him in 7th. Martin Krejcik finished in 8th, having exactly where he started, and Rory Collins coming home in 9th. Then in the top 10, you've got John Hill, and the last of our prototypes to finish the race in 11th was Larry Croup. Let's go to the GTOs.
All right. It was all about that battle between Janssen and Hagner, and Janssen comes out victorious just barely at the last turn. He'll finish first today. Hagner going to have to settle for second. Michael Houghton, great drive by Houghton, and we barely talked about the poor guy. Sorry, Mike. 3rd place for the Texan today, comes up 3 spots to get there. Caradine Bawafia, drive of the race for that Audi, right there, 10 spots gained, finishes 4th, just outside that podium spot. Ove Trengerade, 5th today for Ove. John Malia, great race from him too today, 6th. 7th, going to go to Franco Skirty. And Brian Shanahan going to finish 8th. Hideki Koivitso in 9th. Bronislav Robanek in 10th overall, or 10th in class. Bruno Viviano, 11th. 12th, going to go to Ben Lafter. He had trouble at the start of this race, Joe, and never recovered from it. Spencer Kimball, going to finish 13th in class. And then we go down to Jerry Folkholb. Trouble in that Nissan today for him, and he'll finish 25th overall, 12th in class. 26th, going to go to Ralph Cummins in his Audi. 27th, Torsten Kratz in his Nissan. Ardo Iamaki, trouble for him in this race early on. And Ardo there, 28th overall, 14th in class. And then we end this race with Michel de Jong. Things never really got started very well for him. And, well, he'll finish 15th in the Audis, 29th overall, Joe.
And that is your finishing order for the field here in round 5. But first up, why don't we talk to a couple drivers? Our winner in the GTOs is waiting for a chat, and I think we're just as eager as he is to discuss that incredible battle. I feel it's cliche, Carl, but the only word that comes to mind is that was epic.
Yeah, that was exhausting. It was a good race all around.
Absolutely. It was great from our end as well. Talk about the first corner of the first lap, 3 wide into turn 1, and as well partway through turn 2. Did that have you nervous?
I didn't see that Juni was up on the inside of Ovi before I looked to the right in with my oculars, but I did definitely not think it was going to continue up to turn 2 either, but it got a little bit tight, but it was all good.
And then, of course, as the race went on, it sorted itself out that it was down to you and Yoni. And you made that pass, that last pass started out in the last chicane. Was that intentional? Were you paying attention to how he was doing in that chicane, or was that just sort of a last gasp, desperate effort?
No, every time I sat behind him, I took in maybe 1 or 2 tenths on him. So, and I wasn't braking at the latest either. So I thought, let's try to send it. But yeah, it was a little bit too far still. But I managed to get it anyways. I think when I came flying, Juni missed his braking point a little bit. So it messed up him in the right-hander out of the chicane. And I managed to get it on the inside.
So this kind of sets up a bit of a rivalry between you two. He's known as being the dominant force in the past, and you've come in and been a dominant force this season. Do you expect to see more of battles like this through the rest of season 1 in 2018? Or was this kind of a one-off? Do you think maybe you're faster than him or he's faster than you?
I don't know really, but I hope we have more battles, because these cars are epic racing this close to each other. Just a car that brings up a lot of racing. And also, if you make a mistake, you can recover it pretty easy as well. So yeah, it's definitely a super great car racing, and I hope we can have more battles.
Well, we hope so too. Congratulations on the win, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.
That was Carl Janssen, winner in the GTOs. Up next, we have second place in the GTP, Rob Olenek, ready to talk to Sean.
Rob, congratulations on a podium finish, buddy. pretty tough drive out there on this circuit today. Talk to us about it.
It was fun. It's been a while since I did decent in the broadcast race, so I kind of screwed up early on. Got to slow down, lost some positions, got a little pissed off about that with myself. And sometimes when I get a little pissed at myself, I drive better.
Yeah, sometimes with that chip on your shoulder, you know, it's amazing what you can do. What was it like getting through the traffic today? Because it seemed like at times that seemed to be an issue. Maybe hurt your run just a little bit.
It always feels like that. I think, though, that it affected all of us the same. Auntie was up front. He'd pull away a little. Then he'd get stuck in traffic. I'd catch up. I think we all had the same pace. It was going to come down to who did better in traffic, I think. Auntie did the best and won. With Keith not being there today, I think all the qualifying times were really close at the top. And I knew it was any of our race if we drove well.
Well, and drive well you did, and well, you stumbled like you said there at the beginning, but you recovered very, very well. And boy, this is really going to be a good shot in the arm for you points wise today.
I hope so. I haven't looked yet, but I hope so.
Well, any roar for the 24 for you today?
No, I'm not doing that. I am going to do a little bit of the 24 hours next week. So like 3-hour stint, but I tried to drive the car. I just don't like any of those cars. It's really what it comes down to me.
What are you driving in the 24 next weekend?
The Ferrari GTE.
All right. Well, our best to you, sir, and your teammates, and we appreciate you coming in with us.
Thank you very much. See you guys later.
All right, Joe, that was Rob Olenek, and you have caught up with Michael Houghton, who rounds out the podium in the Audis today.
Indeed, an exciting podium. Michael, I have to imagine you're probably proud going from 6th to 3rd on the grid.
Yeah, definitely. It was a pretty hectic start, and once we got ourselves into a nice, good line, I started to keep up with Yoni and Carl, but after a few laps, I just started overcooking my tires, and I had to back off a little bit.
Now, you had Kiradine Buafia trying to chase you down after he didn't qualify for today's race. Were you nervous at the end that he was going to get you?
I knew that I had a 2-second gap, and for him to pass me, he would have had to be 2 seconds faster. So not really. I was more nervous against Ove right there during the middle of the race. He was really putting up a good fight.
Did you have any view at all of the battle between Janssen and Hagner up in front? And did that give you hopes of maybe slipping by and taking a win, maybe if they took each other out?
I was thinking that, but I'm glad they both finished up there and no problems. Congrats to both of them. And unfortunately, our other teammate Ben, he had some sort of calibration issues during the warm-up lap, and he had to escape back onto the pit road and get that fixed. So unfortunate for one of our Mind Trick cars.
That is always sad to see. But again, congratulations on taking a podium. I'd say you earned this one today.
Thank you. And a shout out to Brett Alt. Thank you, buddy. See you guys later.
All right. So with that, I believe we are going to close up here today on the Global Sim Racing channel. And of course, we want to thank the Kamel GT community for coming together and bringing GSRC back for coverage this season. We always love getting to put on the show here. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast, and they're here listed on your screen. Additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. A special thanks to appgeneer.in, as they have done a lot of hard work on the ATVO software that we use now, and we hugely appreciate all that they've done to bring that to the community. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, or we're also on Facebook at /Global Sim Racing Channel. The next race a week from now, well, even though it's going to be going on during the 24 on iRacing at least, that'll be at Suzuka on January 20th. That'll be at 12 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on your screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.